welcome back to Food Prep Guide. We are back with our number 10 cans of tomato sauce, and we are moving right along with our canning tomato sauce, turning them into meals series. If you are just jumping into this series, we are doing multiple videos on how you can turn a number 10 can of tomato sauce into all sorts of products. Today's video is going to be Sloppy Joe starter. We've already done some other videos and they will be linked on the screen directly for you at the end of this one, so you can just move right through them if you are interested. So Sloppy Joe starter, what I mean by that is I'm not going to be adding the ground beef just yet, because I want to be able to use it for all sorts of things, and that's something that I just really enjoy doing with my canning. It gives me quick meal options without having to do something specific every time with that 1-pint jar. I like to be able to go grab a pint jar or grab a quart jar and have an option of 4 or 5 different things to make with it that can all be made within 5 or 10 minutes of hands-on time in a pot, or pop it in the oven, and I'm good to go for supper. So Sloppy Joe starter, a couple things to note. Normally, Sloppy Joe, canning Sloppy Joe, there are delicious, tested, safe recipes for Sloppy Joes with meat already in them. If you're going to be doing that, you will need to pressure can. I'm going to be doing a what's called a saucy Sloppy Joe starter recipe. This is adapted from the Ball canning book, and I say adapted just because I just decreased some of the peppers and onions. If you're going to be adapting a recipe for canning, just note that you can decrease the low acid foods such as green peppers and onions and garlic and stuff like that, but you don't want to increase it because that's going to mess up with your acidity levels. And we're going to be water bath canning this, so the acidity levels are very important. This recipe is going to be have some apple cider vinegar in it, which is going to provide some incredible flavor with all the other ingredients that we're going to be putting in, which is going to make it safe for water bath canning. Okay, let's get started.
By the way, if you would like help building your food storage, scroll down to the description box of this video and click this link for our free 1-year food storage plan. We calculated a year's supply of food for one person, then broke that data down into a week-by-week list of items to build your pantry on a budget. We'll send it straight to your inbox. If you're new here, we invite you to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss all of our upcoming food preservation, pantry storage, and gardening tutorials. Now back to the kitchen.
To make this Sloppy Joe starter sauce, we're going to start out with one number 10 can of our tomato sauce. Next, we're going to add our peppers. Now the recipe, I'm doubling this recipe for a total of 8 pints. And for that, I need 5 cups of green peppers and 5 cups of red peppers, like red bell peppers. So what I have here is I have the 5 cups of a mixture of both. So I'm going to add that. It was a slightly less than 5 cups actually. And then what I have is some freeze-dried peppers, because that's just all I have left. This is going to be 2 cups. So I'm only going to end up having a total of 7 cups of chopped bell peppers in this recipe. So just a couple notes. When you're using a canning recipe, you can always use less of the low acid foods such as peppers and onions, but you don't want to use more because that's going to mess up your acidity. So it's okay for me to use less green peppers than what the recipe calls for, but I wouldn't be able to add more. If you're going to ever be using freeze-dried ingredients in your canning, just note that freeze-dried doesn't change the volume at all. It's a negligent difference. So if this is 2 cups of fresh bell peppers, it would be approximately 2 cups of freeze-dried bell peppers. Now, dehydrating definitely changes the volume, but freeze-dried stays pretty much the same. Let me just get that in there. But for recipe's sake, just know that it is 5 cups of green bell peppers and 5 cups of red bell peppers chopped. Next is 4 cups of diced onion. I don't have any white onion right now, so what I have is 4 cups of a mixture of some Vidalia onion and some red onion. As long as I am still using the same equivalent of 4 cups, I'm good to go. This is a quart jar, which holds 4 cups, and this is freeze-dried, so the volume is going to be the same. So this is 4 cups of diced onion that I'm going to be putting in here. And we're still going to be checking our acidity with some pH strips at the end before we even get to the canning, just to make sure that everything is at the proper acidity levels. Next is going to be 2.5 tablespoons of salt. Next, we're going to add 2 teaspoons of pepper. I had my jar of pepper here, or so I thought, but it's rosemary, so I don't want to put that in there. I need to find my pepper jar. There it is. Okay, 2 teaspoons of pepper. I'm really glad I didn't put that rosemary in here. 1 and 2. Next, we need 2 cups of tomato paste. I just whipped that up out of my tomato powder, and here it is. Where's my spatula? So 2 cups of tomato paste. Next, we need 1 cup of apple cider vinegar, and anytime you're using vinegar for your canning recipes, you want to be making sure that it is diluted to 5% acidity, as you can see here. So let me give that a good shake. Sometimes stuff can settle to the bottom of apple cider vinegar, so I'm going to give it a good shake and then measure out 1 cup of apple cider vinegar. And this, along with some of the other ingredients, is what's going to make it safe for water bath canning. Next, we need 1 cup of Dijon mustard. This is another thing that's going to be making it safe for water bath canning because it's very high in vinegar. We need 1 cup of that, and I hope I have enough here. Okay. I am just shy of 1 cup. Since this is an acidity ingredient, it is important for me to get a full cup. So I'm going to go grab another container real quick and make sure I get that full 4 cup, or 1 cup. Okay, we have our full cup. Sometimes with recipes, if I'm just a little bit shy, I don't worry about it. But when it comes to water bath canning and acidity, is very, very important, making sure that it's going to be safe. And since this Dijon mustard does play an important role in making this recipe acidic enough for water bath canning, I did not want to skimp on that measurement. Okay, next is, let's see, 1/2 cup of brown sugar. Then we're going to pack it down. 1/2 cup of packed brown sugar. Okay, 1/2 cup packed brown sugar. And that is it. Let me get my whisk. Give that a good stir. I'm going to go ahead and put my heat up to medium-high, and we're going to bring all of this to a boil. Because I have some of those freeze-dried ingredients in here, you need to bring it to a boil and then lower it to a simmer with the lid off for 5 minutes. Because I have some of those freeze-dried ingredients in here, I'm going to go ahead and simmer it for 10 minutes just to make sure that everything is properly rehydrated. Okay, bringing this to a boil, then lowering to a simmer for 10 minutes, and we'll be back. Since the sauce only has to come to a boil and then simmer for a few minutes, 5 minutes or 10 minutes in my case, I am going to go ahead and get my canner ready. So I've just set my water canner on the stovetop. I filled it halfway with water. I cleaned my jars with hot soapy water and then put in my rack here, loaded my jars, and then I'm going to turn the temperature on to medium so that the canner water and the jars can all slowly come up to temperature together. Which will avoid any temperature shock, sudden changes to the jars, and will help avoid breakage. And then this will stay at medium-high heat until I'm ready to start canning, so that these jars are nice and hot so that I can fill it with hot contents and again avoid any temperature shock there. Okay, our Sloppy Joe sauce is done simmering, so the first thing we're going to do before canning is do a pH test just to make sure that we are safe for water bath canning, since we do have all those peppers and onions in there. But remember, if you follow a safe, tested recipe, you don't even have to worry about this. And this is a tested recipe from the Ball Book of Canning. But I just always like to double check, especially when I'm using alternatives such as the numbered tin can of tomato sauce. I don't know 100% sure what the acidity of that tomato sauce is, so I just want to check and be sure. So here's our test strip. Here's our color chart. And I'm trying to get it to where you can see it. We are right at the 3.5 mark. Here's 4.0. Here's 4.5. We need to be below 4.6, so we are definitely below 4.5. We're probably right in between 3.5 and 4.0. I'm trying to get the light. There we go. Right in between 3.5 and 4.0, and we need to be below 4.6, so we are good to go. So now we're going to fill our jars to 1/2 inch headspace. I've got my funnel right here, and I'm just going to start filling my jars. I'm going to give it a good stir one more time. Start filling my jars to 1/2 inch headspace. This smells so good. That Dijon mustard, I can smell it. And it smells really good. I may have overfilled that one a bit. No, not quite. Okay. Ooh, this is hot. I don't know how long I can hold it. But 1/2 inch is kind of like right in between these two ridges right here. Here's the ridge right here, and that is right at the 1/2 inch mark. So we are good to go on that jar. Hot. Oops, way overfilled that one. Get a spoon and dip some out. Oh, maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought. I forgot this was a wide mouth jar. All the other ones are regular. Yeah, we're good. Looks like I'm gonna get maybe 10 pints. But my canner only holds 8 pints, so I might just put the other 2 in a freezer bag after it cools. Let it cool thoroughly and then put it in a bag and freeze it flat so it's easy to thaw. And I'll just use this first. Put these on my shelf. Probably only have about 1 more pint. So that's what I'll do. I'll let that cool thoroughly, put that in a freezer bag, and we'll use that first. Okay, so next we need to debubble. Get all those air pockets out. So I'm just going to take my debubble tool and I'm going to just run it around here. And sometimes this changes the headspace. So at the very end of debubbling, I'm going to go back through and kind of level things out, making sure my headspace is good to go. Headspace is important for getting a good seal. If they're too full, they might not seal properly. That one's too full, I can already tell. Whoops, making a mess. Okay, so I can tell a few of these are a little bit too high. So this one's pretty low, so I'm going to take a little bit out of here. There's one more that seemed really high. Which one was it? I guess not. I mean, this one's right at 1/2 inch, but let's go ahead and take a little bit out. Okay, I messed up my lid cleaning rag when I made a mess earlier, so I need to get a new one. Okay, and this is just a damp paper towel, just with some water, and this is for wiping our rims. Get any food particles off that can interfere with our ability to get a good seal. And I do need to be careful on this step because I did make a little bit of a mess on some of these jars. I'm just folding it as I go along to get a clean surface to work with. Yeah, this one I made a big mess. Tidy that up a little bit. Okay. Get that right there. Okay, everything looking good. Double checking. Looks good. Okay, so now we're going to put in our new lids on each jar. Oops. And then we're going to put our rings on fingertip tight, which just means we're not going to screw them down really hard. We're going to go just to the point of resistance. Wow. There we go. Okay, into the canner they go. I'm going to immerse the jars, submerge the jars. I'm going to make sure I have at least an inch of headspace, or excuse me, an inch. I'm going to make sure the jars are underneath the water by at least an inch. I prefer 2 inches. We have 2 inches here, so we're good to go. I need to get the lid on this, and we will bring this up to a hard rolling boil. I'm going to turn my heat all the way to high. And once this is at a very hard rolling boil, then we're going to start the processing time. These jars need to process for 20 minutes. Remember to adjust for your elevation. The sauce is done, and I'm just going to take out a jar and show y'all the finished product. Looks good. Still bubbling a little bit, and that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and put these in a box in my dining room, and I'll wait 12 to 24 hours before I check the seals and put them on my shelf. We'll be back then, and we'll discuss a little bit about how I plan on using this. Okay, it's time to take our rings off and check our seals. And to check seals, just in case anybody's new, I'm going to press down in the center, make sure there's no popping, there's no movement. I'm going to tap on the top and listen for a high-pitched sound. Good. And then I'm going to try to lift the lid try to lift the jar just from the lid, supporting it underneath, kind of tugging on it and making sure it's good to go, and it's good to go. So next I'm just going to wipe down these jars, make sure sometimes they're siphoning, which means liquid comes out the top, so you want to clean off those jars so that they don't attract any pests or mice or anything like that in your storage. And then label them and date them, and they're ready to go on the shelf. So really quick, I just wanted to share the 3 primary ways that we use this home canned Sloppy Joe sauce in our house, just to give you some ideas. So the first 2 ways are your traditional slider type sandwiches, Sloppy Joe type sandwiches. I will just take 1 pint of this sauce and 1 pint of canned ground beef, mix that together, simmer it on low for about 10 minutes, and then serve those on buns, and dinner is served. The other way is I will use it with pulled shredded chicken instead of ground beef or ground venison in our case. And that'll be 1 pint of sauce to about 1 pound of shredded chicken. And I'll do the same thing, mix that together, bring it, simmer it for about 10 minutes, and serve that over slider buns, and we'll have like a Sloppy Joe chicken style sandwich that way. And the third way that we use it is a Sloppy Joe casserole type style. And this is when it's poured over some form of potato, normally tater tots, or our dehydrated or freeze-dried cubed potatoes that we put up in the spring from our from our spring batch of potatoes. And I will just I'll rehydrate the potatoes first, and then pour those in the bottom of a casserole dish. Once they're properly rehydrated, I'll pat them dry to soak up any excess moisture, and then I'll dump out 1 pint of this Sloppy Joe sauce on top of the potatoes, top that with shredded cheese, and baking it in the oven for about 15 minutes. And then we have just a kind of like a tater tot style casserole with this Sloppy Joe sauce, and that's an excellent way to make it stretch. You can turn this jar into a 9 by 13 casserole dish when you pour it over something like tater tots or shredded potatoes or cubed potatoes or something like that. It's an excellent way to stretch a meal. Okay, y'all, I hope that was helpful to y'all. The next video in the series will be up here, and the playlist will be here, where all the videos where we are recanning a number 10 can of tomato sauce and turning it into all sorts of things. They will all be living in that playlist somewhere right about there. Okay, hope that was helpful to y'all. We will see you next time. Bye.